You know,
There are other survivors.
Hey everybody, welcome to Atheist Impact, episode 10. I'm your host, Spencer, and if you guys are not getting enough of me, you are always free to come and find me in all of the other places on the internet that I happen to hang out. One of those places is YouTube, one of those places is Facebook, one of those places is Google+, although not very often, but not because I don't like it, but because apparently no one else really likes it. I am also on the Twitters, if you guys ever tweet. I show up from time to time and shoot off a bunch of tweets that have nothing to do with anything, but from the reactions that I get from people, they tend to be at least halfway decently entertaining. So if you're in the Twitter sphere, come find me. Also, I wanted to let you all know that I am going to take a break after this episode, and I will be back in a month. So in 2 weeks, there will not be another episode of Atheist Impact. I'm going to take the pause and kind of regather all of my thoughts and all of my goals for the podcast, and probably just change the format up a fair amount, if for no other reason, just simply because I would like for it to be much more succinct and a lot more informational, I guess I should say. Also, there's the possibility that when I do come back from that month-long break, I'll actually be doing this on a weekly basis. I will probably be shortening the podcast length to 30 minutes instead of a full hour. And that will allow me to keep in touch with, current events and keep up to date on current events. Sort of like one of the things I'm going to talk about here shortly, which is the Boston events of the past week. If this was an off week, it would take me a full second week in order for me to actually be able to talk about this at all. So doing a shorter show every week, first of all, every week is something that people have requested, and second of all, it will allow me, like I said, to keep in touch with what's going on in the pulse of the world as opposed to possibly being 2 weeks late. So let's talk about Boston just a little bit. First of all, a lot of the reactions that I saw when the Boston bombing occurred were obviously the same old stuff. I spent most of the day, I was at work I wasn't at work. I was at home, actually, and I was riveted to my computer. I spend my day in front of the computer every day, so it's sometimes hard to differentiate between a day at work and a day at home. But I spent the entire day mostly reading updates on Twitter. It was really hard to get any real news. Not that Twitter is news, but it was really hard to get any real news because I don't actually have any kind of cable, and CNN didn't really have a live stream, and so I kept trying to find like the Boston local affiliates streams, and most of the time when I jumped on those, they were either really choppy or everyone else was watching it, or they just didn't have any information. And so the great thing about Twitter, for those of you that don't use Twitter at all, is the fact that all of the information coming in from all of the different sources, people that are listening to the radio, people that are watching every TV channel out there, are generally posting up information that they hear on those news outlets. Now, obviously, one of the big things that I did for myself at least learn, but it doesn't really seem everybody learned, during the events of September 11th, 2001, was that you must remain skeptical of all of the information that's coming in. When the information that was coming in during 2001, it was, 14 planes, 15 planes, we shot down one of our own airliners, and so there was just so much bullshit being portrayed. Well, everybody just kept on saying everything and repeating everything that someone somewhere said because they thought that they heard something, or somebody somewhere said this, and it just got pushed along. And that's one of the reasons, in my opinion, why there were so many conspiracy theories around September 11th, because there was so much information that was given out that was incorrect, and it wasn't changed, and it wasn't updated, because for the most part, the media has to stay current. So they're not going to spend a lot of time saying, 4 hours ago when we said that we scrambled F-16s out of whatever Air Force base, then we were wrong. We never did that, because they don't care, because it's not for most media to dwell on the past. Newspapers are one of the very few types of media that tends to spend a fair amount of time offering up corrections. They'll say, in this article that we printed last Tuesday, we actually had an error. This was the actual title of the book or the author, or this was the information, or there were 3 suspects, not 2, or this was the name of the convicted, or whatever. Newspapers are good like that, but 24-hour news media, not really all that good. And again, the reason behind that is because they have to stay current. They're not going to spend an hour correcting everything that they said wrong 8 hours ago or a day ago. They're simply going to re-report and say, this is the information. And if that information conflicts with information that they gave earlier, then they're not going to say, oh, and by the way, this conflicts. I'm sure there are examples of media coverage where they do say that, but generally speaking, it just doesn't happen very much. And so when you hear the report, actually, I think the same thing happened with the Newtown shooting was, who was it? Oh, it was the picture of the sheriff that was unloading the shotgun out of the trunk, I think it was. And, everybody zoomed in on the picture and said it was a whatever kind of gun and this and that and the other, and everybody's going, what the hell are you talking about? It's a whatever, So those kinds of things happen in the midst of chaos and in the midst of the moment. CNN, obviously then, I believe it was Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, made the same jump and said, we have a suspect under arrest. And they reported that for whatever, half an hour, 45 minutes. And then they said, okay, never mind. We don't have, there were no arrests made, even though they were citing, the police chief or whoever the hell it was. So those kinds of things happen. And we don't always learn because of the fact that there are so many people that want to know exactly what's going on, that anything and everything, including rumors and hearsay, is reported. It's really easy. I can't remember what the experiment was, but it was essentially some college group actually created an urban legend. And they made a Wikipedia page about it, and why can't I say that? Wikipedia page about that, and all kinds of other things. And they basically tried to put it out into the world as a real life, not an urban myth. It was a real life thing. They tried to create people and evidence and everything for this. And while, yes, the investigation, again, this is that whole science thing where, a lot of the believers and theists out there, or whatever, will say, well, science is always wrong. Science is always wrong. Look at the Piltdown Man, and look at Nebraska Man, and look at this and look at that. And then when it's given to them that the reason that those are no longer viewed as hoaxes, or the reason that we know that those are hoaxes at this point, is because of science. It's because of the process. And so the process is self-correcting. That's the awesome part of the scientific method. That's the awesome part of science in general. But they don't like to look at it that way. They don't look at it as, oh, that's actually a benefit. They look at it as, it's wrong all the time. So how can we trust anything? It's presuppositional scientific theory is, if you could be wrong because it could be changed, then obviously it can't be trusted. But on the other hand, God done told me that I didn't come from no monkey, and therefore evolution's of the devil. Well, you get where I'm going. Well, you get where I went. I also channeled a bit of my roots. Southern Ohio, unfortunately, stuck with me. I didn't live there for very long. Yeah, whatever. Story for another time, but generally speaking, Southern Ohio was still with me a little bit. I think it's just in my genes. Yeah. And I've watched them quite a few times since I got back to Seattle. But the story of the kids, the college class that created the false identities and the false stories and the people and the evidence and all that sort of thing, the great thing about that was that it was found out by people who investigated and said, this doesn't look right. This just doesn't seem right. It was surprising to me that CNN wasn't reporting what they saw on Twitter as verification for the stuff that they were reporting initially that got retweeted on Twitter, because it appears as though things like Twitter have actually become the new news outlets. Interestingly, most of the time, most of the big events in the whole investigation, I actually found out about through Twitter. Interestingly. And obviously, again, keeping a very skeptical mind as to what actually was going on and what was going to happen, and saying, okay, well, they're not saying that anything's really happening. They're just saying, hey, there's explosions over here in, I think it was Waterton, one of the two. That whole thing that happened on Thursday night, I think it was. That was all pretty crazy. And I was watching, again, I jumped on and live stream, and I think the reason that I was able to watch so much of it then was because most people were actually in bed by the time that was happening. So, again, the internet traffic wasn't all that bad, but, Twitter, of course, was afire with it all. So, one of the things that happened very, very shortly after the explosions, the bombs went off at the marathon on Monday, trending on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere pretty much was, pray for Boston. And watching my Twitter feed, which is pretty much exclusively other atheists out there, there was a fair mix of people that were saying, don't pray, it's a waste of time, do something instead. I know that David Silverman popped up a few times, he's president of American Atheists. He popped up a couple of times and said, don't pray, instead get off your ass and, go give blood. He didn't say exactly those words, I'm paraphrasing everybody here. But it was a call to action. It was, we as atheists don't believe that prayer is actually going to do any good whatsoever, and therefore we are asking that you actually go and do something that will help. Send money, send aid, go to your local area and your local Red Cross and give blood so that if shipments need to be shipped in from elsewhere, that can happen and not deplete the blood reserves of any one area. And those sorts of things. And I'm always really torn when it comes to that. It's kind of like when, and this is one of the Thinking Atheists catchphrases is, you pray for me and I'll think for you. It's not that I agree at all with praying. And while, again, I understand that there is a slight placebo effect for praying, that brings comfort to people, I don't agree with it. I think that it's a false sense of security, and I think that it brings a false sense of peace. And being the naturalist that I am, I think that false hope and that false peace is false. And it sort of, it reinforces the belief. I mean, if you say, you know what, go ahead, I'm tangenting here because this one's kind of a tough one for me and I'm trying to dance around to a degree. It's not so much that I think that the placebo effect is not valuable to many people, because I believe that it is valuable to many people. But the problem is that it's valuable to many people. That placebo effect of prayer that brings you peace and brings you comfort and brings you a sense of calm-mindedness. It isn't real. That's the whole point of placebo. I mean, a placebo is not real. It's not having a real effect on you. The placebo itself is not having a real effect, but the effect of you thinking the placebo is having an effect is real. But again, the problem is that it simply reinforces the belief that my prayers are working, that my prayers are doing something, and to the extreme, that my prayers are doing more than my hands could ever possibly do. In my Jesus Camp video that I did on YouTube, I had a line in there. Maybe it wasn't that video. No, it was a message from an atheist where I said that a hand reached out to help is so much more helpful than hands clasped in prayer. And I still hold to that. I don't think that the placebo effect of prayer is helpful at all. I've heard Matt Dillahunty on the Atheist Experience say, people that are trapped in mines or somewhere like that, if they pray, then it calms them down and they breathe more slowly, and so they consume less oxygen, which increases their chances of living and that sort of thing. But to me, that's not extolling the virtues of prayer. That's extolling the virtues of meditation and being calm in a crazy situation. And I'm not saying meditation, om and staring at a candle, although if that does it for you, okay. But I don't know. So Pray for Boston was trending all over the place, Facebook and everywhere. And I kept seeing atheists pop up saying, prayer's not doing any good. Why don't you get off your ass and go do something? Give blood if you're in the Boston area. See what you can do to help out. Which, okay, again, telling people that in that time Is it really helpful? No, because they're ignoring you. But I'm also not of the mindset that I think that we should really say, oh, this is one of those times. And I say we as in atheists. I don't think that we should back up all the time and say, oh, this is one of those times where your religion and your religious beliefs and your religious practices should be given it the same value of as me or anybody else actually going and doing something. It's like September 11th again. I was living in Oklahoma when it happened, and I remember the only thing that I could think of, the only thing I wanted to do for a good 4 or 5 days after the attacks happened was I wanted to get in my car and I wanted to drive to New York and help. Like, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't care if it was, just showing up and handing out water. It didn't matter to me what it was. I just wanted to go and help. And that slowly turned into, because of my political stances and political beliefs at the time, that slowly turned into, now I want to go and kill the motherfuckers that did this. So I actually asked my dad, who was active Air Force at the time. I was like, okay, you know who I am and you know my education level, which at the time was only some college. I'd never graduated from college. And I said, which one is going to be the best? I was like, I want to join up. I want to sign on the dotted line. I want to serve my country and I want to kill these people that did this to us. And, he wrote me a long email about the virtues of each of the 4 branches. And in the end, I didn't join. I don't know if, the emotions eventually just kind of abated enough for me to realize I don't want to be on the lowest level of the totem pole, even though I was working retail, so could it really get any lower? But I didn't want to go into the military and have to go through all of that at the time, and I still don't. Which I think I'm almost too old, I think, to even join, even if I wanted to. So, and I don't want to. I want to serve my country in other ways, and I don't know how. Consumerism? Sure, okay. Sorry, I remember wanting to help. I remember wanting, and this time, the bomb went off, and the bombs went off, and looking at the coverage, it didn't appear as though it was, majority of the people that I saw, because the coverage was kind of questionable at the time, most of the pictures of the actual damage that hadn't come out yet, hadn't actually been taken yet. So I didn't really think that it was really that big of a deal. I thought, oh crap, that's crazy, but it doesn't look all that bad. And of course, then we found out over the course of the next day or so that 3 people died and over 100 people were injured. And they were talking about the amputations, and somebody posted up a picture of somebody who had their leg blown off, and they posted up on Twitter, and you can't see what the picture might be until you look at the picture on Twitter. That's kind of a bad thing, because when you click on it, yes, I want to see the picture, then boom, it's there. And not that I'm of the mindset that out of sight, out of mind, it didn't happen if I don't see it, but it was really more than I wanted to see. I've always had a problem with that. Those Faces of Death videos and the videos that circulate on the internet showing people that died in car crashes and that kind of stuff. I don't like that. I'm not enamored by it the way that some people are. Some people are just, this is crazy. I can't believe this. Like, this guy just blew his head off and here's a picture. And sometimes when I'm searching for images for my videos on YouTube, I will run across those. And it's because I have safe search off, because I want to see all of the images that are available for when I'm making my videos. And sometimes that means that I get the occasional pornography picture, which I'm like, whatever, and I scroll past those. But sometimes when I'm looking at something like shooting myself in the foot, trying to find, a happy little clip art image of shooting myself in the foot, and the next thing I know, I've got just an entire page of Google images that are showing people that, blew their foot off. And that, I don't like seeing that. And so when I see, perfect example of this, Saddam Hussein's sons. Remember when Saddam Hussein's sons were killed and they did not run the pictures in the news at all? And there was a big controversy about that, about not showing the pictures. And, why wouldn't you show us the pictures? If you really killed him, why don't you show us the pictures? And so then, like, the next day on, I think it was the New York Times, front page, top fold, which means when it's folded over, you still can see everything that's happening. And they showed the pictures of the 2 brothers. Might not have been New York Times. Nonetheless, the two brothers, the two dead corpses. And it's like, I don't want to see this, people. And it's not because I'm squeamish, and it's not because I don't want to see the actual horrors of conflict and the horrors of violence and the things that the people do to each other. It's, I have to, for my own sanity, I have to believe that not everyone wants to do that to each other for any reason. I don't want to do that to anybody. Not anymore. I'm not a pacifist, but I don't ever want to have to kill anybody. I don't ever want to have to maim anybody. I don't ever want to have to see someone else do it to somebody else. I don't ever want to be a part of someone doing it to someone else. It's one of the reasons why I'm anti, what's the word I'm looking for? Death penalty. I don't understand the point of it. It doesn't work in a sense of stopping people from doing things. People are going to continue to do things because people are not right in the head all the time. And some people just don't care. And some people expect to die before they actually would ever face any kind of trial and end up sitting on death row for extended periods of time waiting for lethal injection or electrocution or whatever. I just don't believe that it's a deterrent. And I don't like having to pay for it with my taxes either, but there's so much more to it than that. And that's why I don't talk politics very much. And I don't talk politics with anybody because, first of all, politics pisses me off. I don't understand why it is that we can't actually affect change. And I do my part by voting, but maybe it's not enough. And many times I think about, well, you could run for some sort of public office. There's got to be something going on. And then I realize I hate public speaking. I don't really want to get up in front of a bunch of people and tell them why I'm the best candidate for some job that I don't actually know how to do. And, I don't think they do a whole lot of training on the job. Although I think it would be fun. There was some city planning when I was in high school. I went to a city planners meeting, and it was for entire Montgomery County, which is Dayton, Ohio. And we looked at all of the proposals from all of the areas, all the little municipalities. Municipalities? Sounds always so regal. But all of the different, suburbs of Dayton. And it was, we need $250,000 to, build this water treatment plant. And we need, $45,000 to have this park built. And we need, $250,000 over here to, redo all of the sewer systems and that kind of thing. And basically the city planners themselves said, here are the materials that we were presented, and we want you all to get together in two groups, basically, and just say, this is what we're going to have one group actually pitch the sales. They're the ones that have to come up and get in front of everybody. So first of all, the point of all of this is if you're in any kind of city planning or anything like this, do this with the local high school kids because it's awesome. And so half the team had to present and say, this is why $250,000 to rebuild our sewer system is worth your money. And then there was the other group, which was my group, who had to decide who we would give the money to based on those arguments and based on what we felt was actually the best usage of the money. Because, of course, we had a budget. We couldn't say yes to everybody. And, it was really interesting and it was fun. And the end result was, I think that we actually approved something like 75 or 80% of the same things that the actual city planners did approve for pretty much the same reasons. So, I'm sitting there going, hey, I've got a future in city politics or city planning. And I never obviously pursued that, but sometimes I think about that, and I think that affecting change is going to have to be more one of these days. Affecting change in our country as a whole, or at least in my local area, is going to be something that I'm going to have to do more if I actually want to make that change. So backing up to Tuesday or Wednesday or so, again, the Pray for Boston thing kind of had a short-lived quick death as a trending type thing. People weren't really spouting it all that much. And then it turned to, who were the people that did it? Was it a group of people? I think on Tuesday they still had no clue. And Wednesday, actually, they may have actually, I'm trying to remember the timeline, but it seems like Wednesday they still also didn't know how many people they were looking for. And then on Thursday they knew that they were looking for the two brothers, which culminated in the firefight on Thursday night, and then yesterday's capture of the younger brother in the boat. And I haven't seen anything today. It was a busy day at work, so I didn't really have a chance to catch up on anything. But the number, so talking about the anti-death penalty and being against the death penalty, once we did catch the younger brother in the boat yesterday, I watched the majority of the people that I saw on Twitter, people that I don't I don't know in the real world. And, you can only really get to know somebody so much over Twitter and over the internet. But I saw some of these people that I had grown to, chuckle at their funny posts and nod my head when they said something, anti-religious or something along those lines, or, lay a smack down on somebody, and I would go, oh, ha, ha, that's funny, and I shall retweet that because, whatever. I saw a lot of those people actually start calling for the kid's death before our justice system had a chance to actually, go into effect. It's like we just captured the kid, and even before we captured the kid, people were going, well, I hope when they find him, they just shoot him dead on the spot. And, I saw a couple of other people that I've grown to be very close to. Well, I say close as the internet allows via Twitter. A lot of people that I've had a lot of conversations with actually pop up and say, hey, whatever happened to this whole innocent until proven guilty? And, why do we have this sudden bloodlust? Because this isn't the way that this works. First of all, we believe that this is the person that did it. We're pretty sure this is the person that did it, but until we can prove in court that this is the person that did it, we've got nothing. Also, if you kill them when you capture them, or if you kill them like they killed the brother, which I don't know the circumstances, it's my belief it was a shootout, and that's what happens in shootouts. People get shot, and it sucks, and in this case, it was, the older brother that got killed, and that was after a police officer had already been shot, which I believe is connected, but I'm not positive, so anyway. The problem that I have is that when you kill all of your suspects, you don't have any answers, and we're a country and a species, really, that needs answers. It's why heaven was ever even created. It's why gods were created. That is the whole essence of thousands of years of conflict, is we need answers to the questions that we ask. And one group says this is the answer, another group says, nope, this is the answer, another group says this is the answer, and that's why, in the end, there has to be either one religion or no religion, in my opinion, because you can't continue to have the conflict. Eventually, it's all gonna come to a head, and one of the two religions is gonna wipe out the other religion, or eventually all religions are going to be neutered to the point where they don't mean anything anymore. They're going to move into a world of spirituality only, where it's just like what's that? I don't even remember what it was. The I hate religion, but I love Jesus video. What if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion? And I can write better poetry drunk and high while doing lines of coke and shoving an orange up my ass. And that was horrible, horrible stuff. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that image. Even though none of you know what I look like, I hope you enjoyed that image. Because now I can't help but laugh about it. What the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, people calling for the death of the people. And how religion is going to lose in the end. In my humble opinion, eventually it'll just die a slow death. It'll take probably another few generations, but I think that the influence that religion has, fundamentalist Christianity in the United States, extremist Islam in the Middle East, I think that, it's going to be a lot harder in the Middle East because of Israel sitting smack dab in the middle of all of the Muslim countries right in that area. It's kind of, I don't know, it's either a powder keg that eventually has to explode, or it's just a precarious balance that'll continue forever, kind of like the Cold War was between US and Russia, but that eventually came to an end. So I don't really see how, unless everybody suddenly wakes up one day and gives up all of their religious beliefs, I don't really see how the Middle East situation with Israel and its allies versus all of the other Muslim states around it, I just don't see how it could ever possibly just fix itself without conflict. So pretty sure that'll happen at some point. Probably realistically, in our lifetime. I'm not a political scientist, so there is a distinct possibility that I am wrong on that, but it just seems like, and maybe I'm guilty of this because of my upbringing and my fundamentalist Christian upbringing, but it just seems like things have just progressed a lot in the past 20 years to the point where things are a lot more volatile than they were before. It's almost kind of like, I don't know. I'm talking too much politics, and I don't really want to talk politics because I don't really like politics. So we'll just talk about religion and stuff. How's that? Religion and stuff? Does that work? So I'm going to back up to Boston again. Mostly just because it's what's been going on. It's been what's been going on this week. And again, some of the people that I talked to were, when emotions run high, people tend to say things that they don't necessarily mean. And I'm sure that there were quite a few deleted tweets from the past couple of days or the past week or so of people that said things at certain times and then realized later, that was a silly thing for me to say. And I appreciate that people either apologized for those things or deleted the tweets or, whatever. And it's just kind of, we all say things like that. I've said things in the heat of anger, in the heat of passion, whatever you want to say, that I've regretted saying out loud, and I've either had to apologize to people or I've just had to delete it. And a lot of times things that I've written in the past, I've had to just look at it and go, well, I've grown since then. And that's kind of the goal of my life, is to continue to grow. It's kind of hard to do when you're trying to work through a lot of damage from a past, but it's at least a worthwhile goal. And it's something worthy of doing and worthy of fighting for and working towards. So praying for Boston, while there are a lot of people out there that are going to disagree with me and say that they believe that praying is something, this is where the whole question of atheism versus anti-theism comes in. And I am an atheist. I do not believe I do not believe in any gods. But I'm also an anti-theist because I think that religion is harmful and religion is damaging, because even the benefits that people will constantly hold on to and cling to, and many atheists will actually argue religion has value, is, well, first of all, they can all be gained through purely secular means, as Matt Dillahunty and I think Christopher Hitchens and so many other people have said. It's not something that's necessary. You don't have to have religion and you don't have to have prayer in order to feel better in a bad time. It's not necessary. That's been proven that it's not necessary, because there are a lot of people that don't turn to religion in times of crisis, and they do just fine. But when you have it ingrained in you that what you do when facing crisis or hardships or a stumbling block, or you have that speck you see the speck in your brother's eye, but you ignore the plank in your own, then you turn to religion. God's gonna get you through. The Stupid Footprints poem, those are the times that I carried you. And, that kind of stuff. It's like, it's not necessary. And so giving prayer a pass in times of high stress or of high grief is understandable, but not exactly helpful in the end. So the arguments that I saw a lot of were, get off your ass and do something, prayer is worthless. And then somebody would pop up and say, God, dude, you're a dick. Why are you telling these people that all they have is religion to hold on to and that's all they can do? And then the person would come back and say, that's not all they could do if they would just actually think about it and actually do something. So it's just fight after fight after fight. And it happens, infighting is always going on in every community everywhere, because not everybody believes 100% of the things with each other, ever. If you can find somebody that agrees with you on 25% of the things that you believe or think or value, you're doing pretty good. I mean, obviously some of those aren't, you can't work the two of them. If one person wants you dead and also likes cheeseburgers, and you like yourself alive and like cheeseburgers, that's obviously not enough for you to actually create any kind of bond, but that's beside the point. So the infighting that continued, and this is something that's actually very visible in any area of what I'll call the atheist community. And there's the whole atheism plus versus people that are anti-atheism plus. So I don't even know what to call any of these people anymore. It's politics. It happens when you form a committee. It happens when you have a community. People are going to want to step up, and they're going to want to take the reins of some things, and they're going to want to try and guide the dialogue in one direction or another in order to push forward their own other agendas. One of the reasons why the atheist community has been so random is because atheism doesn't imply anything else. If you're a conservative and an atheist, then you're not going to agree on very many things that a liberal atheist believes or feels or thinks is something that you need to work towards. That's why atheism it's hard, because I want atheism to be something that people can rally behind. People can say, because of my atheism, I demand evidence and testable, repeatable evidence? Yeah, testable, repeatable evidence for the facts and for the claims that are being made, because that's really the only way that we can evaluate the world around us. I mean, while our senses may be faulty from time to time, if your senses plus my senses plus all of these other people's senses plus these sensors that we created in order to measure the world around us are all showing the same thing, then we can reliably accept the fact that these things are real and that these things are as we have measured them and as we have tested them to be. But if we're all if all atheists thought that way, then it would be kind of easy. We could all just kind of get behind things and we could say, you know what, until you provide me with scientific evidence that this is a fact, then you're just spouting opinion. The problem is that people still value opinion, and being an atheist doesn't change that. Being an atheist, you still look at things and you say, here's my opinion on this. And so you have other atheists out there that go, well, this is my opinion on this, and those happen to conflict. And one side may or may not say, I demand evidence. And it's that maintaining skepticism. And that's why being an atheist doesn't mean that you're skeptical. It just means you don't believe in a God. And it's hard, because I want people to get on the same page, but atheist label isn't going to do it. And that's why it's one of the reasons why I consider myself anti-theist, because I want to get rid of all religious belief. And I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to ban it. I want people to still be able to practice it. So that sounded kind of wrong. I don't want to make it illegal for people to worship. I don't want it to make it illegal for people to have religious beliefs. I just simply want to help point out to people that there is no reason to have those beliefs, and there's no reason to hold on to those beliefs, because everything that you think that you gain from those beliefs can be attainable through, again, purely secular means. I don't believe in anything supernatural. I don't believe in astrology. I don't believe in angels, demons. I hate to say I don't believe in UFOs, because I really wish that UFOs were real, but for me to believe that aliens are visiting us from some other planet or some other star system, it's just too hard, because there's no evidence whatsoever. And the same thing with the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. I love Loch Ness Monster. I really want the Loch Ness Monster to be real. But me wanting it to be real, and me even going into the realm of believing that it's real, doesn't make it real. Reality is reality. What I want reality to be is not reality. So it's kind of disappointing, and that's one of those things that I lost when, I threw off the chains of religion and chains of theistic belief. You can't hold on to those things. It's a blind spot. I know a lot of people have those blind spots, and for a lot of people, that blind spot is religion. It's God. For me, that's kind of what it was. Before I became an atheist, there were a lot of things that people believed in that I didn't believe in. And then there were also a lot of things like UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster that I did believe in, because I wanted to, because I wanted the possibility to be real so much that I just said, there's got to be something. It's got to be something. Crop circles were awesome. Yeah, but again, I'm an atheist. It doesn't say anything about you other than the fact that you don't believe in gods. And it's really tough to get people on the same page when that's really all that you share. The gun control debate is something that's been going on on the internet for, years, we'll say. And everybody has their own opinion. And you've got atheists that believe that guns should be controlled, and you have atheists that believe the gun shouldn't be controlled, and you have atheists that believe the gun should be taken away, and you have atheists that believe that you should be able to own your own Sherman tank if you so desire. I don't know if Sherman tank, how about an Abrams? There we go. An Abrams tank. And, you have people from all sides. We're not always going to agree on things. but I would hope that at least we could agree that religion and the beliefs that cause people to give up the seeking, give up the search. That's the word I'm going for. If there are people that give up the search for knowledge and search for truth because they believe that they have all of the answers because God done told them. And our goals and our job as atheists is, it's not to push forward a specific political agenda. It's not atheism plus. It's not gun control. It's not tree-hugging hippies. It's not any of those things. I mean, if we have a goal, it's just to engender feelings of acceptance for those of us that don't accept religious beliefs. I've said it before, and I know this is kind of going all over the place, just like normal, but the problem here is that it is so definitely hard. How do I tell you as an atheist how you should act? Well, I can't. The only thing that I can tell you is, the only way that I can say that you're being a bad atheist is if you believe in God, which seems kind of silly. If you believe in God and you call yourself an atheist, you don't understand the definition of God, or you don't understand the definition of atheist, or you don't understand the definition of is. Was that the word? Depends on what the word is means. Yeah. And so when I realized that we aren't going to share any of the same, we may share a couple of the same things and a couple of the same opinions about things. I'm not going to share, bring a third person in and suddenly now we don't agree. You've got people there in my real world. I used to have a Facebook that I actually kept up with old high school friends and that kind of stuff. And I got to the point where I just deleted it because I didn't care about what was going on in these people's lives because I didn't actually have any interaction with them. I mean, it was kind of, if I wanted to see your baby pictures and if I wanted to see how, your wedding pictures and this and that and the other, or, you have this affinity for cars. And so now you're constantly posting up pictures of cars. And then there's the people that everything that they see in a chain email, they have to post up. And then you have some random anti-vaxxer, which this was all before anti-vaxxing was actually a big deal. So I didn't have any of those in my friends list, but I had one girl, she was, she had some cause. And I mean, part of me was kind of envious. It's like, okay, you know what you want to do with your life. You're taking it to them. You're saying, I have this thing that I believe in and I want to actually make a change. And it was, I don't even remember what it was. We'll say it was muscular dystrophy. That was her thing and that was her cause. And every single one of her posts that she posted up had to do with that cause. And again, I was slightly envious, but I was also really annoyed because it drove me nuts because it's like, look, I don't even know you. I went to high school with you, but I don't really know you. And now I have to spend all this time listening to or reading you or seeing all of this stuff about muscular dystrophy. And it's not that I don't care about the suffering of others. It's just I'm not that focused. And so if you post up something once a month or so, maybe I'll give it a read. But when it's an everyday thing, it's not that big of a deal. But the point of that is that there are people out there that actually have goals, and there are people that want to push forward an agenda, and there are people that want to make a change in the world in some way or another. And the world is way too big for us to actually be involved in everything. I can't both push for, gun control and legalization of marijuana. I kind of need to, in my state, I don't have to worry about that last one, but I kind of need to focus on the small things that I can change. And one of those things is changing the hearts and the minds of the people. In my life, my activism, my goal as an atheist is to, number one, help people out there find a common voice, in the sense that so many of us have gone through the deconversion process coming from Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever it is that you're coming from, Mormonism. So many people have come from these cults and from these religions, and they're looking for common voices, people that understand what they're talking about, people that as they work through removing certain catchphrases and work through rewiring their brain so that the answer to every question isn't seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness for his name's sake. They don't want that in their head anymore because it doesn't mean anything. It's only good for an argument later on with a theist that is trying to convert them or bring them back to the fold or argue for some reason or another or something along those lines. They want those things out of their head, and in order to do that, they need to find those other people. And I'm one of those other people, and I run into those other people all of the time. And while I do not know for a fact that I have had a hand in deconverting anyone out of a faith or a religion, I know through the emails and the private messages that I've received that I have helped many people after they went through their own deconversion. It's a very dark time going through your deconversion, because even if you have others around you that you can talk to, it's a personal journey. You can't ask a friend to get you over the fear of hell. You can't ask a loved one or a family member to help you come to terms with dying. It's not something that you can ask anybody else to do. It's something that you have to do yourself. And my goal, one of my goals, and one of the reasons that I do all of this, is to let people know that there are others that have gone through this with you and before you, and will go through it after you. And it's all just kind of one big giant AA meeting without all the bullshit. Hey, my name's Spencer, and I used to be a Christian. Oh, welcome. Yeah, okay. We're here for each other, and we are one big giant family, but we're also horribly dysfunctional. And that's okay, as long as we don't start killing each other over it. I see arguments every day between atheists on, well, every topic that you can imagine. And it gets old, because, I mean, obviously it's what I'm focusing on. That's one of the things that I said recently. If you've lost your faith in humanity, you're focusing on the wrong things. Because we really are awesome. Every TV show that you ever watch, or every movie that you ever watch where there's aliens that come in, or, some kind of weird outside force comes in and tries to take on the humans, and the humans overcome, and the reason for it is because the human factor, and, we're not as simple-minded as you think we are, and we're not as simple as you think we are. We're actually very complex, and we love each other and care for each other, and we are humanity. And, it's like that's always how we overcome these overwhelming odds, is because of the human spirit. We're gonna do this shit. And I see all of these people arguing over the most petty things. Definitions of words is something that causes friendships to break down, people to just go apeshit bonkers in comment sections and on Twitter and everywhere else on the internet. And I'm just wondering what the hell any of these people are thinking. It's like, again, my message and my goal is to let people know that they're not alone. And once I'm out of the atheist closet, it's to let other people know we're not all bad people. Some of us might be bad people because there's assholes in every single group. I mean, how many times do we see the video of the pastor that, that raped some kid in their congregation? Or I just saw one earlier today that had to do with a pastor that murdered his next door neighbor, it doesn't matter. We see these stories of pastors that have fallen from grace, and they've done these horrible and atrocious things, and we're like, yeah, see, religion, man. Religion's it's that God belief shit that's gonna cause you to go just crazy. And it's like, yeah, well, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Maybe it causes and it creates and fosters an environment that allows people to think that they can get away with anything. And obviously, the Christian doctrine does let you get away with nearly anything, except for blaspheming of the Holy Spirit, whatever the hell that means. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, again, there's assholes in every group, but trying to get people not necessarily on the same page, but trying to get people to understand that we shouldn't be the most distrusted demographic in the United States, because that's just, my own personal experience, other than the outlying assholes, is that we're actually pretty level-headed most of the time, and we're decently rational most of the time, until someone disagrees, and then suddenly it's claws are out, and everybody just goes apeshit crazy. The whole Richard Carrier versus Bart Ehrman, did Jesus exist argument kind of comes to mind. I don't think that everyone really reacted in the way that calm, rational human beings should. And I realize that Ehrman considers himself agnostic, not atheist, but I don't understand why everyone, it's like conflict and drama appear to be the only way some people want to communicate. And I don't want to have anything to do with any of that. And so during all of the Boston, Pray for Boston stuff, I just kept quiet. I, retweeted a couple of people that popped up and said, hey, whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? And a couple of the other people saying, hey, how about we not shoot the next person so that we can actually take them to trial and actually have our justice system prove that it can work? Yeah, I don't understand some people sometimes, and I don't know. It was also kind of a stressful day at work today. Since we've reached towards the end of the podcast, I'm just going to drop any context of trying to keep on topic and fill these last few minutes, especially since you're not going to hear from me for a month after this, at least not on the podcast. Work has been one of those things that I finally realized over the course of the past couple of days. I don't work in a place that has a ladder. There is no logical next step. It's more like, it's kind of like Darwin's evolutionary bush. You can't expect to just make it to the next step. You sometimes have to jump over to a new branch and start over there on that new branch. I work for a company that's big enough that there are enough groups here, there, and yon that you could go and never interact whatsoever with another group in the company and not care whether the other team actually exists, because they don't really affect your group. And so I finally realized that. I realized this isn't a ladder. I can't just obviously take the next step. There is no obvious next step. I may have to jump to a different branch, or I may have to jump to a different bush altogether, which is now sounding totally inappropriate. But nonetheless, realizing that is kind of crappy, because it means that for the last couple of days since I realized that fact, and since I actually accepted that as being realistic, I'm now having to fight with this urge to just say, screw it, and go to some other company that just offers me more money just for the money. I also realized I'm 35, and if I retire when I'm 70, that means I've got 35 more years of work ahead of me, and I don't really have a problem with that. I only have a problem with the fact that I don't want to spend the next 35 years necessarily at the same place. It just doesn't appeal to me by any means. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with all of that. I love Seattle. I think Seattle's beautiful when it's nice. The other 9 months of the year, when it's kind of overcast and cloudy with, the occasional beautiful day. We've actually had some really beautiful, beautiful spring days so far. I want to say it only made it up into the 60s, but when you're normally down in the 40s or lower 50s, when you reach 65 or 67 degrees and it's sunny outside, it's beautiful. It's that whole thing where 65 in the winter is freezing cold, or in the fall is freezing cold, but 65 in the spring is, put on shorts and a tank top and let's go play in the sprinkler. I don't have a sprinkler, but I do sometimes put on the short shorts in the tank. I'm kidding, I don't. Although it'd be funny. So, I don't know. I like it, but I sometimes think that maybe somewhere like Hawaii would probably be a little bit more to my liking. So I know this was horribly rambly, more so than other times, but again, the whole format's going to change in a month when I come back. And the reason for that is I want to tighten up the ship, and I want it not to be an hour of me rambling. And so this is episode 10, which we'll say is the end of season 1 of Atheist Impact. I thank you all very much for listening, and I hope that you will continue to stick around. Also, if you get the chance and you've made it this far into the podcast, do me a favor and drop a favorable review if you believe that I'm actually doing a good job on either iTunes or Podbean, which is where this is hosted, as well as perhaps the Zune, if you're still using Zune. I don't think there's very many of us left out there, especially with Windows 8 changing it to Xbox Music. I don't think it even has podcasts anymore, which is, what are you doing, Microsoft? Come on, figure it out. So Anyway, again, if you think that this is worthwhile to listen to, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your, secret atheist friends. Share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it. And leave me a nice review. And if you have any constructive feedback, do me a favor, send me an email, xandersmeteor@gmail.com, or even easier, AtheistImpact@gmail.com. All right, everyone, I will see you all in a month with a new, revamped Atheist Impact. I hope you all have a wonderful and a safe week.